many-to-many relationship, right? So let's start Visual Studio and open up the website we've been working on and take a look at the database that we have so far. We have some database connections, and here's a couple of tables we had created earlier. And so let's create a many-to-many relationship between three tables. We'll have a developers table and a website table that represents all the developers and all the websites that are currently being worked on, and then a mapping table between the two that captures the relationship between the two, right? So let's create a new table, call it developer, and it's going to have a primary key that is going to auto increment, and it's going to have a name for the developer. It's going to have a, which is going to be varchar 50. Okay, and we're just going to update that. Okay, let's see if it's created. Let's refresh. There it is, developer. Let's create another table that will capture the list of all the websites that we've been working on. So this is a website. The primary key also is going to be identity. And the website is going to have a name. Okay, maybe let's just keep it simple, just a name. Update. Okay. All right. Look. Okay, so now let's see if the table is there. There it is. So here's a website table. Here's a course table. I mean the developer table. Let's now create a table that can map between the two, right? That can say, you know, so and so developer is working in so and so website, right? So we'll create another table, and we'll call this developer to website. Okay, it's what it's going to do. It's going to map a developer ID. It's going to be a foreign key that references the developer record, a developer record, and it's going to have a website ID that is also foreign key that references website record. Okay, make sense? All right, saying that developer is working on that website. An entry into this record, a record entry into this table means that so-and-so developer is assigned to be working in so-and-so website. Everybody okay? Right? Now, one thing that we might want to do is not allow the same developer to be assigned to the same website more than once. Right? It makes no sense that you are assigned twice or more than once for a particular website. Yes? So what we're going to say is that combination developer ID and website ID is unique. So that's a primary key, meaning there cannot be any repetition. There cannot be two entries in two records that have the same combination of developer ID and website ID. Make sense? Right? That combination has to be unique. If we try to make it a repetition, redundant entry, it'll stop us. The database will stop us. Okay? All right. So now let's update. All right. Okay. All right. So let's create a couple of developers And we'll say this is developer 1, developer 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. 8 developers. Okay? Right? And now let's create several websites. So this might be website 1, website 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay? Pretty good? Okay? And now let's assign a couple of employees. Oh, it shouldn't be called employee to developer. It should be, wait, what is it? No, what do we call it? Where is it? It's not here. Oh, there it is. Developer to website. There we go. Okay. Let's look at the table, data, and we'll say that developer 1 is assigned to website 1. Developer 1 is also assigned to website 2. Developer 1 is also assigned to website 3. Yes? Then we say developer 2 is working together with developer 1 on website 3, but independently, that developer is working on website 4 and is also working on website 5. Developer 3 is collaborating on website 5 with developer 2 and is also collaborating with developer 1 on website 1. Yes? See that? Okay. All right. We have that. Let's close that. All right. So now we like to start creating the website, right, that interacts with these databases. So to do that, we're going to add a new entity framework. We're going to use entity framework to create for us the C# classes that will allow us to interact with the database. So we'll say add new item, ADO.NET, and this is going to be, we'll call it developer website data model. Okay. Okay. And says, okay, it's going to store the new classes that it's going to generate. It's going to put them under app code. I'm going to say yes, put them under app code. Design from the database. So look up the tables in the database. And it's this database, right, 4550. We can give it a name for the entities. Remember that there's going to be the object that's going to allow us to, right, to start interacting with the database. So we can give it a name. So we'll call it maybe dev website, dev web entities. Okay, let's remember that name. We'll need it. Now it's going to show us, allow us to choose which tables we want to interact with. We'll interact with developer, developer to website, and website. And it'll put all these classes under a model. We'll call it dev web model under namespace. Say finish. Okay, it's thinking. Say yes. You say okay to these security warnings. All right, notice what it generates, right? It generates a class diagram very similar to what we had earlier, right? That it's a many-to-many relationship. Says, notice the star on each side, right, of the relationship. It says there are many developers associated to many websites, right? If you take one particular developer, it will be associated to many websites. But if you take one particular website, it'll be associated with many developers. Notice that it added also a couple of properties at the bottom, right? Developers and websites that allow you to navigate from one to the other, right? If you have a particular developer, you can list all the websites that that particular developer is associated with. Or if you have an instance of a website, you can list all the developers associated to that particular website, all right, which is pretty cool. You can navigate from either one. Okay? All right. Okay, so let's see what it generated for us. In app code, it generated, there it is, developer website data model. See that? There's one in particular, this one, developer website data model, that declares the two classes that we're going to be using. The developer class that contains the primary key, the ID. It contains a name property, right? The field plus, look, it created a collection that allows us to list all the websites for this particular developer. And vice versa. For the website, it also creates a collection that for all the developers associated to this website, right? So you can go both ways. If you have an instance of a developer, you can navigate to all the corresponding websites. If you have an instance of a website, you can navigate to all the corresponding developers, which is pretty cool, right? If you had to do this with a DAO, right, it would be quite a lot of work to have to code this, right, to populate all this. Okay. All right. So let's see, right, if we could use those new classes that were generated by the entity framework from an ASP.NET page to create a simple website that interacts with these pieces of data model. So we'll create here, add a folder where you have here developer to website entity framework. Okay, so let's create here. Let's start with developers. Let's create a new page, a new web form. Call developer list. Okay, let's give it a name here, H1 developer list. So this is going to list all the developers, right? Perhaps as a UL, the repeater that we're going to give it the list of developers, and this is going to run on the server. So we need to give it the list of developers, right? We have to give it to it. So, and this is going to use an LI to display the name of the developer. So this is, so we're going to give it a list of all the developers, and this is going to iterate over that, and we're going to display here the name of each one of those developers. Okay. So to do that, we're going to use eval. Use eval here, eval, and then the name. Oops, there it is, eval. Am I missing something? Eval repeater. Oh, I'm missing the item repeater, item template. Okay, there it is. Okay, there we go. Right? So we need to feed this repeater with the actual data. Right? We need to feed it with a collection of developers. Yes? And we have that list where? In the database, right? So let's go fetch that list of developers from the code behind. So let's go into code behind. Let's go in the code behind. And when the page loads, what we want to do is retrieve those developers. Okay? So here we're going to say using that, what was it, developer, what was it called? We call it, oh, what do we call it? Developer. Oh, there it is, dev web entities. Okay, remember? That's what the name we gave it for the object that we're going to need to be able to interact with the database, right? So that's DB, new dev web entities, right? And then we can use that to feed the list of developer repeater, the data source, from the developers in the database. Convert it to a collection, and finally, the repeater, tell it to data bind. All right, so let's try it. Let's run this. There it is, all the developers, right? Obviously, we can make this a little prettier, right? If we load Bootstrap, if we grab the Bootstrap link and we include it here, we can make this look much more professional by saying that this is a container, right? And that, that already makes it look quite more presentable. Obviously, we could replace the UL with tables. We can replace the LIs with table rows. We can replace the spans with TDs, and then style the table with table and table striped. Make this look much more presentable. Okay. All right, there we go. What else? What else do we want to do? All right, once we have this, we would like to maybe navigate to the details page for each one of them, or we would like to be able to create a new one, right? So to be able to create a new one, we would need some kind of form. So let's create a form here. We'll say table head, BR, ID, and this would be maybe a text box, right? ID, employee text box. Okay, runs at the server. This is a text box. We can style it maybe. We can say CSS. We can say this is a form control. Right? Maybe we could put a button. ID ASP button. ID add employee button that runs at the server, and it's the text of add that has a class of button primary that has an on-click of add employee button. Okay, so here is where we would create a new employee. So we could say a new developer. So we could say developer dev is equal to new developer, and we can set the name of the developer to be from the text box, right? Developer, what do we call it? We called it, we called it employee text box, not employee. We'll call it developer text box. Developer dev name text box. How's that? So dev name text box, get the text. There we go. And then we can say db dot. Oh, we have to grab the entity, right? The dev web entity, right? db new dev web entity. We can say db dot developers dot add the new developer, and we can then save that to the database, right? Once we have the developers, we can then update the repeater, right, by sending all the developers back to the repeater. So let's try that. Let's refresh. Let's add. Notice we have 8 developers, and so we can say, so here's Alice as a new developer. We can say add. Notice that Alice is now added at the bottom. See that? Okay. Very good. So the next thing we might do is allow users to navigate to a details page where we can display details about that developer plus any projects, any websites that that developer might be working on, right? That's pretty much what we did last Tuesday, right? That allows us to go from one to many. But what's going to be different here is that we can now, when we navigate to the website, the website is going to have a list of developers, right? So you're going to have to be able to navigate, right, from a developer to a website, right? And then from those websites, you can navigate to many other developers, right? Which is pretty cool. All right, so let's do that. Let's add a button here, a link. Let's say href that goes to a developer details is ASPX, providing the developer ID as an eval. We'll provide the ID as part of the link, right? So we could say the details and details, and we're going to do the class. We're going to say that this is a button warning, right? So let's refresh this. Here we go. So I have details there. So if we click on details, it'll navigate to a page that doesn't exist yet. So let's create that page. Oh, let me stop this. Add new item. Web form, I'll call it developer details. And let's see if it's there. Okay, very good. We'll copy the bootstrap here as well. And we'll say here h1 developer details. And what we'll do here is the only details we have for that developer is what? It's just the name of the developer. That's all we really have. But if we had other things like, you know, their email, the URL to their website, right? Maybe there's some private information such as their phone number, right, and other things. We could also have it here. But as it stands, the only thing we have is their username, right? Their name. All right, so for now, we're just going to display name, and this will be ASP label. ID will be developer name label. That runs at the server. We can populate that Plus, we could populate the websites that this developer is working on, right? So websites. And this is going to be a repeater of websites, so lists of websites. And this is going to run at the server. We're going to use maybe a table to render this. Maybe we'll use a table row to render this. So wait a minute. Wait. The table is going to be here at the end. Table row is going to be in the item template. Here we go. Okay, let me clean this up. Here we go. Yeah, so in the table row, we're going to show, what do we show? We want to show the name of that particular website that we're iterating over, right? So this will be what? TD, the name of the website, eval, the name of the website, right? Okay. All right, let's go. Let's see. Let's go to the code behind for the details and retrieve that employee. All right, so let's retrieve that employee. Let's see. We want to retrieve the employee. I mean the developer. I'm going to say using dev web entities db new dev web entities, and use the db dot to find from the developers, find what? From the ID, right? We need to parse the ID. Where is the ID? It's in the requests, right? So we can do it right here. We can say convert to integer whatever is in the request as the developer ID. Right? That's going to give us the developer instance, right? So the developer instance, so it's going to be developer. There it is. Now we have the developer. We can now feed the UI with the information about the name of the developer into the developer name label. We say developer label text is equal to the developer dot name. There we go. All right. So if we refresh, there we go. We have the name of the developer, right? If we go back and we click on D4, it'll be D4. There it is. Let's paint this a little better. We'll style this so that this is a container. So it looks just a little better with those margins. And the websites, we want to list all the websites that this developer is working on, right? And that's easy too, right? Once we have the developer, we can just say that the list of websites, the data source, is going to come from the developer dot websites, right? Converted to a list. And then we can data bind. I guess developer 4 is not working on any websites. Let me see. Developer 1. How about developer? Okay, there it is. So developer 1 is working on some websites. Apparently, we did not style the table. Let's style the table. So it'll be class table striped. There we are. Okay. So the question was, well, you can create new websites right here and there, right? And but then you would be saying that only the developers that are working on that website, right? If I create a website right now, the context is that we're looking at a developer 1. If I create a website under here, if the understanding would be that this developer is working on that website, yes? Just like yesterday when we had the author and the books, when we created a book, it was within the context of a particular author. Make sense? And that was okay because, right, we said that there was only a one-to-many relationship between author and books. You know, one author has many books. You know, we're not allowing several authors working on the same book, just one author, several books. As opposed to here, if we say that we create a website here, well, it would be the understanding that it's just this one developer. But that kind of breaks down when you consider that really, really you have that several developers can be working on that same website, right? So it won't be fair to create the website here, okay? What you could do instead is that we could assign a developer to an existing website. Notice that we have many other websites, right? We have website 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way to website 10. What we really would like to be able to do here is assign a developer to a website, right? As opposed to create a new website. Okay, make sense? Right. All right, so what we want to be able to do is assign to another website. So what I'd like to be able to do here now is perhaps in the table in the head, right, in the row, what we want to do here is list all the websites and then have a button assigned to this website. You know, that you're also working on this other website. So instead of having an input field to allow you to create a new website, what we're going to do here is use a drop-down list. Drop-down list. So this is going to be choose, so website chooser. Okay, and run at server. Okay, so this drop-down, right, it's going to be populated with all the websites, right? So let's do that. Let's populate that drop-down with all the websites, right? So what do we call it? We called it website chooser. We'll call it website chooser, right? So it'll be a drop-down with all the websites. So we'll say website chooser. The data source for that website chooser is going to be all the websites. So it'll be db.websites.toList. And we're going to data bind website chooser data bind. There it is. All right, so we have the website chooser, right? These are all the websites, but notice that it's represented as the object representations, right? So that's not very useful. That's not very readable to human beings. So what we want to do is say, we would like to say website chooser, the text field, right, where you're going to grab what you're going to display, right? Instead of displaying the object name or the address space where you live, I want you to grab the text field from the following, right? From, as you iterate over the websites, grab the name field. Grab the value from the name field, right? There it is, right? So that's much better. Here are all the websites. See that? All the websites are there. Let's style it. This drop down, let's say that I'm going to use for the CSS. This is also going to be a form control. Okay, there it is. So we have the drop down of all the websites. See that? But if we see the way it's being displayed, it's notice that the options, the name and the values are the same, right? If they're using the label as the value. What we really want to put for the value is the ID of the record, right? So let's do that. Let's say that website chooser dot data value field. You're going to grab it from the ID field. Okay. Now if we render it, notice that instead of having the names W1, W2, W3, it puts the ID of the record. Okay. Awesome. Right. So what I'd like to be able to do here is add a button here that once you select the option, there should be a button saying, you know, assign this developer, the current developer, to be working on this website. Right. So let's do that. Let's create a button here, right, that says TD. It'll be here an ISP button with ID assign button. Run at server. Oops. We'll say the text is assigned. We'll say that the CSS is button primary, and that on click, I want to create a new event handler, and there it is, right? So if I refresh, we'll have an assign button. Turn on. There it is. There's a assign button, right? That once I choose it, it'll say, oh, this developer is not only assigned to work to websites 1, 2, and 3. That developer is also assigned to work on website 7, for instance. Make sense? Meaning an object that already exists. Okay. All right. So let's do that. First, we're gonna grab the dev website entities. We have to find both the website and the developer. We need to update both. We need to make them know about each other. We need to tell the developer that now they're assigned to this website, and we need to tell the website that now this developer is assigned to you. Right? We have to remember there's 2 foreign keys here, right? One goes out to the developer, one goes out to the website, right? They both have to know about each other. So let's do that. Let's find the developer using the ID, using db.developer